racial inclusion as being one of the pillars of the Wellbeing Waterloo region for terms of ensuring that neighbors are connected and watching out for each other. So I think there's some work to be done there now. I also believe that this is something that we can connect into our neighborhood strategy in terms of feeling like you're part of the community. And certainly when I know there's many municipalities, I won't go too far into length at this, but some people have heard me say there's many municipalities in Ontario that don't have snow clearing sidewalk bylaws, and they still figure it out. And sometimes it's because they know that they can't call somebody else, so they figure it out and they work with their neighborhoods to get it done. And I think that's part of a piece that we could build into the neighborhood strategy.
Councillor Bodley.
Through you, Chair Henry, I might piggyback on what Jen was talking, Councillor Bassick, was talking about there, but I have a couple of questions, I guess, first. For Chris, I guess. So one of the things that I often, first of all, thank you very much for responding to all of the questions that I asked, the numerous questions throughout the season, and responding very professionally. I'm sure at points in time on my time here, short time on council, when finding out that I have to add that the question I have is for you, I'm like, oh my God, she's going to hate me because I keep asking her question after question after question. So thank you very much for that. But a lot of the knowledge that you've imparted on me is around the minimum maintenance standards and understanding that. And I've been able to utilize that terminology when talking to residents about their specific roads when they have questions. So I understand that we have these maintenance standards as set out by the province. Do we have any internal goals for the various roads that say, okay, most residents would say to you 10 centimeters of accumulation on the road, although that's the minimum maintenance standard as set out by the province, that's not acceptable to most residents, I would suggest. And I understand that that's not our goal. And I'm curious if we need to set that out to say, these are the minimum maintenance standards that we will meet, but these are the goals that we have for those roads.
Through you, Chair Henry, that's a difficult question because we on a class 5 cul-de-sac that we can leave 10 centimeters of snow on that cul-de-sac. Do we leave 10 centimeters of snow? No. But we also realize that we can't always have it down to the asphalt. So it has to be a balance in between the number that the province has given us and black pavement. So I think we do a really good job of trying to meet that middle ground, wherever that may be. Some seasons it's easier than others, depending on the types of precipitation we're getting. So if we'd had just snow all winter, we probably would have had black asphalt everywhere. But when we have the mixed events, it makes it more difficult for us.
So yeah, so just some food for thought. And again, the idea of having internal goals does not necessarily mean that we're going to achieve those goals all the time, for sure. But the idea of having internal goals might be something that we can go to residents instead of saying we can leave 10 centimeters on your road, so you should be happy with where it is. We can say, we can leave 10 centimeters on the road. Our city goal is 5 centimeters or whatever it is. So just something to think about in terms of the framing of the discussion with residents, not necessarily that we would be obligated to it. Next question, sorry, through you, Chair Henry, is, so the budget that was referenced at the beginning of the presentation was $1.8 million. Is that the budget specifically for roads, or does that also include parks in the bylaw piece as well?
Through you, Chair Henry, it's specifically for transportation. I did not include my friends with their costs.
So as a follow-up then, do we have a budget specifically for the Parks Department and for bylaw in terms of what we spend on sidewalk clearing currently for trails, sidewalks and pathways, and also for enforcement?
Through you, Chair Henry, our expenses relating to this program are primarily wages, since any work that city crews do to clear sidewalks are billed back to the taxpayer or to the tax rolls and are recoverable. So that's a recoverable item. So our budget is somewhere in the range of about $22,000 per winter for the salary and benefits of those two officers.
Through the chair, to the councillor, similar to Shane's comment, my costing is a lot of it blended in with other areas. I can get you those numbers. I don't have them with me at this time.
Okay, appreciate that. Thank you. So before I go into a conversation about sidewalk clearing, I just want to clarify the bylaw and maybe use an example. So the issue, I guess, with the way that the bylaw is currently constructed, and it's not necessarily a criticism of it in comparison to other bylaw, it's just I'm looking at it. So if I'm a person who is a senior or who has mobility issues, or I walk to school, I'm a mother, single mother who's walking to school with a stroller, and there's unfortunately not a neighborly person who has decided that they're not going to clear their sidewalk. So I go out the first day, maybe I'm just frustrated and I don't say anything about it. It's already been 24 hours since the snowfall anyways, so that's one day. Then the first day, I don't say anything, so that's the second day. Then we have 1 to 2 days to go out there, so that's 4 days. You can see where I'm going. I won't go through the whole thing, but by the time we get to the end of this process, it's 9 days since the snowfall. And I think this is where the frustration comes in from residents, particularly who have mobility issues. So is it fair to say that at some point in time, if a resident is complaining, it could be 9 days since the last snowfall before we're getting to the point where we're actually out there doing something?
Through you, Chair Henry, to Councillor Bodley, that's exactly correct. When you think in terms of immediate safety concerns, the bylaw doesn't go as far as many people would like it to see in terms of alleviating an immediate safety issue. Our clock, if I can use that analogy, our clock starts ticking when we receive the complaint. And typically we won't receive a complaint until at least 1 day, but it could be several days. But even if it's at 1 day and a couple of days for enforcement, re-inspections, sidewalk cleanup, we could be into 7 days. And that's for non-compliance. The ideal scenario is we do an inspection, leave a notice, and the property owners comply, which is something that happens regularly as well. And it's the bad spots that highlight the timeframes. The one point and we will look at the timeframe issue and see what flexibility there might be in the bylaw, but it's predicated on one issue, and that is a municipality's ability to go onto private property or go onto a sidewalk and do work and then bill it to the taxes of that property owner against their will, quite frankly, it's all dependent upon the ability or the lack of compliance from somebody complying with something or failing to do something they were directed to do. In other words, they have to be given an opportunity before we can before the city crews on any type of bylaw that we have can go onto their property or onto their sidewalks and then bill their taxes against their will. So we have to balance the time frame piece and the safety issue with the fact that we have to give a time for compliance.
And I think